Liz, I think you and Bennington College are about to break the spell of what's called the house at Pooh Corner. Now, that's the technical term for something that happens. It's systematic in institutions, not just educational ones. Let me read you from the house at Pooh Corner. Here is Winnie the Pooh coming downstairs now, behind Christopher Robin, bump, bump, bump on the back of his head. It is, as far as he knows, the only way of coming downstairs. But sometimes he wonders if there might be another way, if only he could stop bumping long enough to think of it. Well, Liz and Susan and Bob Borden have thought of an alternative way of coming downstairs, and it's called the Centre for the Advancement of Public Action. This fine new institution is going to bring us world citizens appropriately equipped to tackle the complex and, let's be honest, contradictory set of global problems. The governor spoke eloquently about the problems of growth versus environmentally sustainable development. There's also the contradiction of something close to my heart, which is liberal intervention when citizens are being slaughtered by their own regimes, versus us knowing when we have neither the credibility nor the leverage to be present. There's the contradiction of needing young people with fresh ideas, but also needing them to have a sufficient grasp of history to know how we, the well-meaning international community, have made mistakes in the past, and to understand the conditions that help our values to triumph. I'll remind you of what Cicero said. To remain ignorant of what happened before you were born is to remain a child always. Now, I wish somebody told Tony Blair that. Anyway. One of the many challenges that are going to face our CAPA scholars are having to have the sensitivity to understand why some developing countries distrust us, despite our generous aid programs. Because while we say we want to help their economies thrive, we also dump our agricultural subsidies on them, thereby destroying their own markets. We prop up totalitarian and kleptomaniac dictators for our own short-term geopolitical aims. We sell these same thugs guns, which they use to oppress their own citizens who only want the things that we so take for granted: democracy and freedom. And then we turn on these same dictators and thugs when we're finished with them. We've been doing it since colonial times, through the Cold War, against communism, and now the war on terror, take your pick. And then we express surprise when they use the arms that we sold them to slaughter our daughters and our sons. In short, we must have the grace to see ourselves as others see us before we can understand how we can best interface with the rest of the world. The pitfalls of our ignorance are evident. There's an Afghan saying, "You've got the watches, but we've got the time." We have to balance an ability to be sensitive to local culture with a staunch belief in the universality of human rights. Our CAPA scholars must have the confidence to denounce destructive traditional customs around the world for what they are: a veneer of sacred importance constructed by one group, usually men, to subjugate another, usually women. I'm talking about things like female genital mutilation, marrying off 7-year-old girls who then bleed to death from being raped so often and giving birth so young. And these are massive problems. You may recall another example of this: the Saudi police who locked dozens of girls, schoolgirls, in a burning building rather than letting them run out without their hijab. Evidently, it's better to lose your life than your honor. Which brings to mind something Martin Luther King said: injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Our CAPA alumni must also have the courage to challenge aspects of our own lives before we lecture others about their ignorance and failings. Our superficial, celebrity-obsessed, self-indulgent, pampered, and trivia-embracing society. A culture where we buy things for the status an object confers on us, rather than its usefulness or beauty. And I believe CAPA activists will need to seek the agents of change within a society and to empower and to support those agents of change rather than imposing our idea of change from the outside. It really is more effective like that. I hope that CAPA scholars will have the thrill that I've had of watching an illiterate woman learn how to read and discover herself, of watching a genocide widow transformed from selling her HIV-infected body on the streets so she can feed her children to being an elected official. Honestly, it's the biggest thrill you'll ever have in your lives. They also need the maturity to know that bravery is not found on our reality television shows. It's found in places like Tahrir Square. In February, I had possibly the 3 most exciting days of my life in Cairo, in Tahrir Square. And I remember a man saying to me, if I have to sacrifice my own life so my daughters can grow up in a free and pluralistic society, then that's okay. Now, I started by telling you about Pooh Bear and his staircase, and I'm going to finish by telling you about the wall. CAPA's scholars, I know when they come here, they're going to be impatient to want to change the world. But Liz, we have to warn them about the wall. It's a wall that many of us, the governor, Liz, the Bordens, have been standing at and holding up all of our lives in our own ways, and a lot of you in this audience as well. We're standing there because we don't want to lose ground, the ground gained by the previous generations of public activists. Let's be honest, there are a few great leaps forward, and we go through times when it's quite a struggle just to keep that wall in place. But public activists have to keep going despite the disappointments and the setbacks, because if we don't, the wall will collapse on us, and then we all lose. Think of how long some campaigns took. The anti-apartheid movement, years, no quick fix there. And the admirable people who still campaign on Burma and Tibet. And I'm reminded of what Gandhi said. Whatever you will do will be insignificant, and it is very important that you do it. I'll tell you who's been at this wall before us. The previous generations of public activists, the people who challenged the divine right of kings, the people who fought slavery and serfdom all over the world, the people in this country who fought for civil rights, not just Rosa Parks, but all of those unnamed people who actually faced down snarling police dogs and water cannon and lynch mobs, the women who fought for the vote, the people of the Warsaw Ghetto, the people of Leningrad who endured 900 days of siege. Harvey Milk, but also all of the unknown, unsung gay heroes who find the courage to come out to their families and their friends, knowing that they may lose the very people they love as a consequence. And the disabled people, they're at this wall as well. And God bless them for refusing to hide away just because it would make the rest of us feel a bit more comfortable. And there's also the people who ask why and keep asking why. The message from CAPA to its scholars is this: it's your turn to come and stand at the wall. Thank you.